Coming to you from Grand Rounds Brewing Company and Restaurant, our town.
Been working hard every day and now I'm through.
Enjoy this beautiful day.
Hey, glad you're with us once again from Grand Rounds, downtown Rochester. We have a great opportunity here to welcome officially the Our Town welcome to the new City Administrator of Rochester, Steve Rymer.
Thank you very much. I appreciate you having me here.
You've been running around making the rounds just a couple of weeks in. Tell us a little bit about yourself.
So that's exactly what I've been doing, is making the rounds. But I'm originally from Minnesota. I was born and raised in Robbinsdale. I went to school, went to college at the University of Minnesota, went to Hamlin. Spent the early part of my career with the city of New Brighton and Maplewood. And then last 12 years I was in California, working in the Silicon Valley area for the Morgan Hill community. And then I just got this great opportunity to come back to Minnesota and be the city administrator in a great community like Rochester.
What are your big challenges with the size and the amount of growth that's happening and projected? That's something that not every city has the luxury of having, and the challenges.
Yeah, absolutely. And there are challenges. I'm really trying to keep it as an opportunity, trying to keep it positive, because this is really about growing the community of Rochester, and there's many components to that. The DMC is very visible, but it's just one part of what we're trying to do. So looking at our transportation system, housing systems, our quality of life, placemaking, all of that is what's exciting, the opportunity ahead. And what I'm really looking forward to is working with the community, work with all the different members, and find a way to make Rochester even greater.
And for folks that might not understand, how do you interface with like the city government, the city council, and so on?
Yeah, no, it's a great question. So I'm hired directly by the city council. So I work for the 7 members. And it's my job to really provide the leadership throughout the organization to make sure that we're advancing their priorities, their goals, bringing forward the professional advice, and ultimately let them make the decision what's best for the Rochester community. So I'm really active with all the different departments, not quite yet on week 2, but as I get involved, I'll be involved with many different things.
And then is there a state component as far as communication from your office? You know, so many projects like DMC have a large state component. Do you engage in any of those discussions?
I will, and I've started on that path already with some of the DMC conversations, Destination Medical Center. And I do see that with Rochester being the 3rd largest city, being the economic engine of southeast Minnesota, as well as our neighboring states. The role that I have, the role that this organization has with the state is going to be very important.
Right, so you are the go-to person, the designee to talk to the state about things, or?
One of them. Obviously, our elected officials are involved. Some other members of the team are there, and as I kind of settle in, I'll see where my role is going to be in direct communication. But I would anticipate that I'd have some conversations at the state level.
And I know you're making the rounds, so you're brand new. But you know, what's on your plate right now besides meeting all the department heads?
I think everything.
That's about it.
Yeah, no, everything's on. As I've been telling other people, I'm really in a listening mode, trying to get to know everyone, trying to get to know the team itself. You know, with 900 employees working for us, trying to get to know the council better, then trying to get to know all of our partners throughout the community, from nonprofits to our business community to our partners at Mayo. And so it's really just a lot of conversations and just trying to absorb everything I can with the rich history here and the success that they've had up to this point.
History. A lot of development and a lot of old buildings that people want to save also in the downtown area. There's been quite a bit of conversation about that, and neighborhood groups. How do you balance the needs of neighborhoods and preservationists with the folks who just want to grow and build new buildings?
Yeah, well, I appreciate using the word balance, because that really is what it is. It's looking at, what's the fabric of our community. Our history is a key part, but so is the future. And so it's trying to find that part of where it's appropriate to maybe look at moving forward in one way, and where it's appropriate to make sure that our history is always preserved. I don't have all the answers to that by any means, but I think the philosophy of balancing the two is exactly how you said it.
So now that you're new, I can lock you in to come here every month. No, I'm kidding.
Yeah, I'm happy to come back whenever. However we can share our story with you would be great.
Yeah, and as you get busier, when you have different priorities you want to emphasize, please come on back and let us know what's going on in your world. Love to hear your views.
I appreciate that. I'll try not to ask too often, but I'll take you up on your offer, certainly.
Well, welcome back to Minnesota, I guess is what we would say,
absolutely.
right, Steve?
Absolutely.
And so you kind of knew Rochester before you came here. So you found that the same's changed a little bit in the time you've been out west.
Yeah, absolutely. Rochester's always been a great community. Just visited here in the past, and as I got to know it more and more, as I got interested in the position, it's a great community, and there's so many things that have happened in the past, happening now, and the future is just going to be bright. So I'm happy to be here.
Working with a large behemoth like the Mayo Clinic and the city, that's a challenge or opportunity?
Yeah, so I would use the word partner instead of behemoth, but I understand what you're saying. They are a very important part of our community, and I really look forward to get to know them, get to know the leadership there. Obviously, I see their employees throughout the community, and they're a big part of who we are and a big part of our success. So looking forward to working with them.
Yeah, I guess, is there negative connotation with that? I did not
don't
mean it if it was. I just meant they're a global medical
That's
giant.
fair.
They're huge. Well, wonderful. Steve Rymer, thanks so much.
Yeah, absolutely.
For making time on your busy schedule, and best of luck to you.
Yeah, thanks. It's my pleasure to be here. Thank you.
Our Town is brought to you in part by the following amazing people and organizations.
The new Clements Subaru proudly partners with award-winning KSMQ Public Television. Clements Subaru of Rochester. Clements' clear value promise is to make buying a Subaru fast, fair, and simple. The Minnesota Arts and Cultural Heritage Fund and the citizens of Minnesota.
And the members of KSMQ Public Television. Thank you.
Stay with us. Our Town continues with a discussion about women leaders in Rochester. We find out how to get the best fall color in your yard, and we meet Horace Cook and his 9 daughters. And we're still looking to give away some of our fantastic ice scrapers. Up first, more artists. Our Town found them in the Cook Park neighborhood in this week's Our Culture segment.
Have you seen this? The crowd is crazy. Yeah, and I mean, we're only just getting started. The sun's still up. Wait till the sun goes down. I'm Bobby Marinas. I'm a local artist and event organizer in Rochester. And what we're doing here is making history. This is Art Blitz. It's Cook Park, 2017. This is my 4th one. Last year I did it in Texas, so we're cross country now. And this year I'm doing it in both places, both states. So yeah, that's what it is. Changed the date. It was August 26th was the original, and I changed the date to September 30th and crossed my fingers, and lo and behold, the weather's perfect now. So, at our Blitz, you will see food trucks. Well, one food truck now. You will see a vendor village, vendors from all over the place, artists from all over. We have artists from Wisconsin, Minneapolis, all around the southeast region. You'll see bands of all genres, 21 performers, 3 stages, a dance area with 5 different dance groups, hip-hop, salsa, tribal, kids area with projections, animations, interactive art. You'll see a little bit of everything. Yeah, and the unexpected. You'll see some weirdness. I actually assembled an amazing team. We have about 5 people organizing stuff behind the scenes right now. Amarama, Andy, Luke Austin, and Michael Baker. And each person was in charge of their own section, and you know, they killed it. We just put together an effective team, put a call out, and everyone came out. I started this because I noticed, I don't know, a lack of connection, a lull in the local arts community, and kind of like a lack of cohesion. You know, there's a bunch of cool things going on, but they're kind of scattered. And what I wanted to do was showcase as much creative energy as possible in one place. You know, bring it all together, and you know, that's kind of what inspired it. And I also wanted to provide opportunities to artists and performers of all types who don't necessarily get a chance to show their work. If I could say I wanted one thing for people to take away, it would be, it wouldn't be one, it would be a few things. I want them to know that there's a lot of creative talent in town, that there's a lot of potential for collaboration, for bridge building, for a sense of community, and the arts community, the creative community in Rochester is as vibrant as ever. Wait till you see the next one.
For more information about this story and other Our Town features, connect with us on Facebook, Twitter at KSMQ #OurTown, or ksmq.org/OurTown.
Car's dying, not a lot of money. Scared to check my checking account. I guess I'm walking for now, but at least I'm finally getting exercise. Oh, bus riding, some dudes with me mugging. Got a black and eye and a cameo appearance on Cops, but at least I'm finally getting televised.
Rochester Startup Weekend. Think of it as a camp for entrepreneurs. On November the 3rd through the 5th, Rochester is hosting a hands-on, get-in-the-trenches weekend for people who love to start new companies or new ventures. It's a mixture of business pitches, team development, coding, designing, and market validation. Sounds a little chaotic perhaps, but Jamie Sunsbach says it's a blast. So give them a call at Collider if you have questions, or check out swrochester.org. Rochester Downtown Alliance and the DMC have partnered to do a little more prototyping. They will be testing 7 lighting concepts outlined in the heart of the city plan. The installations will be on display from 5 to 10 p.m. November the 4th through the 11th on Peace Plaza. Called Air Glow, this will be a family-friendly activity and a good way for you to have a say in the features for the heart of the city sub-district. Details at downtownrochestermn.com. And if you just can't wait to break out the Christmas decorations, you are in good company. Historic Mayowood Mansion begins offering Christmas tours before Thanksgiving. That's correct, November the 11th they start up. Tour includes light refreshments and a history of the home and family, not to mention the fantastic Christmas decoration display. Tickets, information, olmstedhistory.com. Finders, keepers, losers, weepers. Best friends Grace and Lucille. Does that ring a bell? There's a new boy in kindergarten and he is the handsomest. Phrases from Junie B. Jones. Junie B. Jones is in town. RCTC, Rochester Community and Technical College Theater Program, is presenting Junie B. Jones is Not a Crook. It's October 28th and November 4th. This classic children's character learns lessons that are relevant to all ages in a hilarious production. More information about that show, rctc.edu. Coming up next, we find out which trees give the best fall colors on today's Walkabout segment.
Welcome to Our Town Walkabout. Today we are here at Sargent's Nursery. My name is Steve Burek and I'm the assistant manager, and we're going to be looking at trees and talking about a little bit about fall color. Color-wise, this year has been probably not as brilliant as we've seen in years past, and part of the reason really is we had a lot of moisture in September, and the trees kind of continued growing, and that will have somewhat of an effect on fall color. Another thing too is we have not really had any cool temperatures where we have had a killing frost. Right behind us, these are all maples right in this section here. With the maple trees, you're either going to have them coloring typically either the yellow to orange or the reds. Is this a good time to plant a tree? It really is. This is probably one of the best times. The spring and fall are the ideal times. You don't have to be quite as diligent with your watering and things like that in fall as the temperatures cool because the trees are going dormant. When people are planting trees, one thing that is very crucial, don't plant them too deep. Where the roots start to flare, that's really where you want your soil level there. This is our most popular tree, the autumn blaze maple. And the nice thing about that is it tends to be a little faster grower too, which is great. Now this is Fall Fiesta. This is a sugar maple. That has a tendency to color more to the orange yellow. I mean, beautiful trees. That's the one that people are always looking at.
Women's issues, both good and bad, have been in the news lately.
And Bethany, our next guest, here to talk about the status of women in Rochester. Coming up next on Our Town.
Our past. Remembering what made us who we are today. Brought to you by the History Center of Olmsted County.
Horace Cook, one of Rochester's earliest builders, arrived in 1855. He designed and built several residences, churches, hotels, and schools, notably the Cook House Hotel, an old central school which was built in 1868 and considered the city's finest structure until a fire destroyed its towers. Horace may have been a respected builder, but it was his daughters who garnered much attention in the newspaper's society pages. Horace and his wife Anna had 9 daughters: Mary, Louise, Sarah, Harriet, Josephine, Ophelia, Minnie, Elizabeth, and Nina. The daughters were considered lovely, intelligent, and desirable marriage prospects, and all married into other prestigious Rochester families. On August 1, 1896, Horace died surrounded by his beloved wife and daughters. His obituary remarked of how he and his wife were widely known and highly esteemed in all circles, and emphasized he left behind a true and faithful wife and a rare and gifted family of 9 daughters who are highly connected to the city.
Slaving away just to get my money right. We're out here on the road and we're doing fine.
Glass ceilings, equitable representation, harassment in the workplace. Unfortunately, women are making the news these days.
And the national conversation has been vigorous. So we got to thinking, how are women doing in Rochester? Joining us today is Bethany von Steinbergs, private consultant and the facilitator of Rochester's Lean In Circle. So how are women doing here in Rochester?
I think women in Rochester are doing really well, but I think we have a long ways to go. I think that, when I first moved here about 2 years ago, I just wanted to survey the landscape of the things that were happening in Rochester and what organizations and what people were doing to meet the needs of, especially issues of gender equity in the workplace. And I found that there was not specific conversation that was devoted strictly to that topic. And so I went online and I Googled at leanin.org, which I can explain, is there a Lean In circle in Rochester? And I found out that there was a circle that was on hiatus, and I wanted to rejuvenate that conversation. So I spent some time looking around and learning, but then really realized that this is something that needs to be launched and needs to be championed. And I don't negate the fact that we've had a lot of women and men who have gone before us to champion the rights of women in the workplace and who have taken political office and who are now in C-level positions running companies. And I don't want to negate that fact, but we have women still today who are championing and trying to get into positions of office because they're highly underrepresented. And we have women that make less money per dollar than men, 79 cents on the dollar as their male counterparts. And I'm not going to rest until I'm in a world where that's equitable. And also where my 3 sons, I have 3 sons, and I want them to live in a world eventually in the future where there aren't women leaders, there's just leaders. And I'm excited about being a part of that conversation here in Rochester.
And these Lean In circles, can you tell us a little bit about what they look like here in Rochester?
Sure. Sheryl Sandberg, who's the CEO of Facebook, wrote a book called Lean In, Women, Work, and the Power to Lead. And her book really gained such popularity with both men and women as helping them understand the disparity in men and women's roles in the workplace. And she made it her mission to change that. And so she has kind of 3 focuses of what she's championed through her nonprofit, Lean In. And the first is Lean In Circles, which I can explain. The second is through public awareness, doing campaigns, fundraising, photography to show women in their various roles and champion their cause. And then also education. She provides, and the nonprofit Lean In provides graphs, statistics, research, videos, TED Talks, discussion guides, where you can begin a conversation in an informed way about the disparity in the workplace for gender equality and equity, really.
So where does that message, who's the intended recipient of the message? You know, this is one of these organizations that are great, but it's like everybody in the room, I would think, identifies with that problem. So where is that information going to help?
Right.
If that makes sense.
Yeah, really, it's going out through these circles, Lean In circles. So there's 34,000 circles that are globally meeting, just small groups of men and women, usually 8 to 15 people, and they come together to intentionally talk about empowering women to achieve their ambitions. And so if that's something that is a passion of both men and women in this area, I want to encourage them to attend our circle here in Rochester. And eventually, I know the conversation is going to grow, like you're saying, because a lot of people can resonate with that, and we'll make more circles. And eventually, I would love to be leading a chapter here in southeastern Minnesota, which is just a grouping of circles of people who intentionally meet for accountability, to hold each other accountable, to set goals, and to really break that glass ceiling.
But I just want one more follow-up. Just, do you want to get, you'd want to get like the HR managers. I mean, get the people who make those choices, get them in your groups, right?
Yep, and I think there's an education piece that those people need to have, and all of those resources are accessible on the leanin.org page. Because there really is that disparity. And so I think really mindfulness and intentionality around the issue of equity is the first step for all people, men, women, but especially when you're in a position of power, when you're in an HR role, when you're the president of a company, being able to have power and influence, to be able to give a hand to a woman, to call out a woman and say, hey, I think you could do this. You should consider applying for this job. We find statistically that more men will apply for jobs and for promotions than women, unless the women are petitioned by someone and say, hey, I see potential in you. Would you consider applying for that job? They often don't do it unless someone does that. And that's something both men and women can do today.
And similarly, for elected office, women tend not to just sort of self-nominate themselves to go and run for office.
Correct.
So, I mean, part of this Lean In philosophy is also about sort of personal development, professional development. So what roles or opportunities are there for young women and women sort of emerging leaders, emerging professionals, young professionals in the Lean In circles?
Sure. There's other great organizations in addition to the Lean In Circle here that I'm facilitating in Rochester. The Rochester Area Chamber of Commerce has a group called WILD, Women in Leadership and Development, and they have a mentorship program as part of that. They do meetup events. They also do a women's roundtable the first Friday of every month. These are opportunities just for intentional conversation, linking arms with women who want to do work right, who want to do it in an equitable way. There's also a group, More Women on the Move, which is a nonpartisan, nonprofit group that really is championing, empowering women to get into positions of elected office. And they want to train you, they want to empower you, and they want to equip you to be able to get into those positions.
How long do the meetings last? How do they work?
Sure. So my Lean In Circle meetings are every other month. We meet for an hour and a half on the odd months of the year. So I started the circle this last May, and we've met May, July, September. Our next meeting is November 14th, and all of that information can be found by searching SE Minnesota Lean In Circle on Facebook. And I'm happy to approve you as a member if you're interested in being a part of that conversation. And you can also search on Eventbrite for More Women on the Move. They're going to be having a luncheon on November 2nd, and this is an exciting time to hear from a past lieutenant governor and the current lieutenant governor, and really be inspired to consider a position of political power as a part of what you do as a woman in this city.
So do you have any words for men and women that are watching right now and sort of thinking about these issues, what you're talking about today, and just all the issues that are happening currently in our world around women?
I think pay attention. just pay attention. Pay attention to the women that are not at the table with you. When you're sitting at a meeting and you notice that there's only one woman at the meeting and there's 10 men, why is that? What could you do about it? When you're at a meeting that's all women and no men, what can you do about that? And how can you grab a hand or write a letter, be an encourager to women that you see talent in and inspire them to set goals and really break that glass ceiling. I want to live in a world where my sons don't have to look up at a glass ceiling, they just see the clouds, and they see a world that is full of leaders of all talents, all genders.
Bethany von Steinbergs, we're so glad you came to our region.
Thank you very much.
And that you came to our town. We've learned a lot. Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And thank you for being with us today. C-Tech, the new school, that's on deck for next week's show.
And just a reminder that we have more of these fabulous ice scrapers. Send us a sentence or two about why you watch our town, and we'll send you one. Email us at rochester@ksmq.org.
They fit in your wallet.
They do. It's very convenient.
Yeah.
And soon we might need them. See you next time on Our Town, the show about Rochester.
Get up.